Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jason Wynn. I'm going to be here today to talk to you about understanding Yammer and Microsoft Teams and how we use these products and what we need to do, to which one to use and when. So a bit about me and a bit of an anecdote about me. So I'm from the States. I now live in the United Kingdom. I'm a Microsoft Teams expert. That's what I do. A bit of an anecdote about me is that I've met Harrison Ford twice, and the second time he remembered me. So first time was at something to do with film, and the second time I met him, we were in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, in a fly fishing spot. So he said, "Hey, you're that guy from Texas, right?" That's me. So a lot of you may or may not know, I run an event out of the UK called Evolve Conference. And those of you who have seen Josh's session, my session kind of ties into a lot of things that he's done before with VComms Next. So with that as well, so I'm going to show you the slides, but I'm also going to tell you the story that we've had and what we've done as part of that. So those of you may have seen this before, where we have the kind of an inner and outer circle. But the one thing that this doesn't tell you is that the inside and outside, the really big outside is the problem. And what we're going to use is the inner and outer loop to actually pull those things together to get to the solution. So we had it before. We had, Yammer and Teams, and we had Outlook on the bottom. I've simplified it entirely. That we work together using these products, still using what we call the inner and outer loop, but ultimately what we're going to do is working through Yammer, we're going to bring the information into Teams, and then we're going to find that solution. So a bit about what I was saying before, kind of telling the story. What we have is we have a big conference, and that was my problem, was the conference. So with that as well, we didn't want to focus on the problem, we wanted to find the solution. And to do that, we used Yammer to provide the wide lens, and we used Teams to focus in on the solution. So we're going from wider to narrow until we get the exact problem right out. So essentially, what we did is recruited a team of experts that had the relevant knowledge. We pulled that expertise in. Everybody who wanted to be interested in Teams and in Yammer focused on it. We gained that access back into Yammer, into the conversation, into the experts, and then we ultimately used a mixture of the both. So what is Yammer in its essence? In essence, it's a social network for your enterprise. But Yammer isn't just about bringing people together from your work. It's also about, it's the entire organization. It's the business which you work for. Those are its boundaries, in that it's the wider setting. Public is its wide setting. And that with that, although the users can be involved in other networks and other businesses outside of your organization. So it's just not limited to your org or your business. With that as well, we know that Yammer is about connecting and finding a common ground. So it's about networking, distributing that day-to-day information, and coming back with a bigger information, a bigger picture within the org. As well as that, Yammer allows quick identification to the experts that we may not know within the organization. So we can reach out, we can say, I have a particular customer. Has anybody banked at this place? Does anybody know who these people are? What experts do I have in this particular product? And I, as a human being, may not know what any of these people may know, but I could pull that information through. So in essence, I'm casting my net across the entire business and trying to find out who knows what. What specialities do you have? Because I don't know. And so how do we use this as part of our conference, pulling everything together? So the organizers of the event, we worked for all different companies. We weren't together every day. We didn't have a common ground other than we wanted to run this conference. So we immediately had to get access to the experts. So we invited attendees into Yammer. We invited different groups in. We ultimately talked about the agenda. We drove excitement around it. We wanted to find out what social events we should have. What are the questions that the attendees may have? As well as that, we wanted to try to help each other out. During the conference, we had a Yam Jam, so we invited people to come in and then be part of that. Try to pull that content through, driving the excitement of what's going on within it. As well as that, people who weren't physically sat at the conference also had the ability to be part of that content. After the conference, we share the content. Shared from the SharePoint links that we have the content uploaded to. We share that content out through Yammer, and ultimately we let those conversations bubble away, because then that's still generating the excitement after the event, distributing the feedback, and pulling everything back together again. So Teams. And Teams is ultimately kind of that focus. It's a real place where stuff gets real. It's ultimately where we assemble our experts and we pull things into a detailed level. It's about the tasks, the workflow, the timelines. Teams allows you to pull that all together into a native integration to the apps, into bots, and help organize those things. As well as that, anybody who remembers the day, who are old enough as me, they remember the days of BBS and bulletin board systems, and you took the time to actually go and dial into a system, to go to a forum where you share the common ground with these things. And I often put myself into that where I still do that now with Teams. I'll go to a channel, find something that's particularly relevant to me, and then I'll join that team and find the channels and that information that's relevant to me. And since the first day we logged onto those Windows machines for the first time, we're almost doing the same thing again with Teams. It allows us to take that almost ingrained knowledge that we have and apply it to this new platform. And that's how intuitive, and that's the experience that we have with Teams. And that's how it feels to me. But Teams takes that message even further. It allows me to take that to the business and create things that are accountable and makes things that are, whether they're confidential or they're public. It allows me to be focused on every share that I have within that. So whether we're working on a documentation, but everything we do within the project and within that team space, you never have to leave Teams. You don't have to leave to make phone calls. You don't have to for conferencing. We bring it all into that single pane. And as well as that, I can collaborate with people that are internal and external within the organization. And all the presence that we have within Teams as well will still be there. So I can take that information, and it allows me to not have to worry about creating FAQs or having to worry about repeating myself or finding that same answer over and over again. I have that content easily and immediately available to me. So there's no need to do those things. Not only that, threads don't get lost. I don't have to worry about things being behind a paywall. It's all there. And channels are ultimately kind of a simplified for topics and threads. And one of the things I do like about Teams is that it only goes 2 levels deep. You have your channels and you have your teams underneath that. And what's nice about that is it keeps it simple. It allows you to focus on the business rather than the organization of what's going on within the content of what's being shared. So how did we use this part of the conference? We created a small, tight-knit team. We're able to work within what was already being worked on concurrently in different locations, different focuses. Some guys are specialists in Azure, some within Exchange. We could pull all that content together. And we achieved different focuses using different channels. And the channels were ultimately created about 6 months before the event. And with that, we had people from catering, people from different designs, vendors, making things specific in time, making sure we had all the content we needed to bring it all together. So, in summary, what is Yammer? Yammer is about the big picture. It's about having the holistic conversations that we have within the organization. It's about finding out who your experts are, who's important to you, who wants to help you and support you in these things moving forward. It's about the conversations that are relevant to the people in the business and not necessarily the business itself. So you may have forums about golf, or where to find good accommodation, or trading vegan recipes for your 4-legged animals. It's about pulling it all together and finding out what you need to have. It's about planning the Christmas party. It's about the bigger picture that you have within these things and understanding that you need to find a common ground about finding the people, growing closer, and networking. So Teams is more about the doing, the actual actions of the environment, the doing, the detail, the teamwork. You pull upon the experiences and the understandings of things, and you pull upon the experts that you have, and the way your information is worked on within your network. And conversations are very, very much centered upon the solution and the strategic, and where these things focus on in the documents and the workflow, and where things are closer within the communication. And the discussions tend to be more around the business level and the refining down to one topic and the solutions. And the solution ultimately provides the answer to that problem. So teams are about a select group of people who focus on reaching out to the same solution. So that's really where we pulled through. So I'm happy to come through any questions and comments that you guys have. Go ahead and raise your hand and I'll happily repeat anything that you guys have, but that's where we're pulling through. So if you think of it, where we're pulling things right back, so if we go back to the main slide. It's about finding the problem, identifying the problem, pulling things through, finding your experts, finding out who knows what within your organization, then pulling those expertises through into teams, and then using teams to identify what you're going to actually do to solve that problem, and then making that solution happen. Yep.
Why would you not create an all-company Teams channel or Teams?
So the question is, why wouldn't you have an all-company Teams channel? So right now, Teams is limited to 250 people. So if you're happy with a 2,500 now, is it? So if your org is greater than 2,500, you can do it. Now remember that the way things are laid out within Teams is different than the way you have it out in Yammer. And Yammer is more conductive to actually having the conversations, and Teams is more about getting that workload done. So you may be able to say, hey, reference a Teams channel within Yammer itself, but Teams is more about actually getting the content done. So you may have a channel within there where you could have something humorous or have some fun or dropping images into it, but that tends to be more around the Yammer side of things and how that work goes. Anybody else? Cheers, thank you very much, everybody.